Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This week, we're going to be talking about product pricing. So last week, I've had a lot of you guys asking for videos explaining product pricing. And I think this is a really important topic because I get a lot of questions from people who really have the wrong idea of how to price your products. And it's really important to price your products correctly because if you're overcharging, you risk drawing wrong conclusions about the viability of your product just because you're charging too much. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a detailed tutorial of how to price your products for low ticket products, medium ticket products, and high ticket products with all the criteria they need to take into consideration when you're deciding the price that you want to charge. Also, I want to thank all of you guys that left comments in the previous video telling me what topics you'd like to see on future videos because that really helps me understand what you guys want to learn about, and it really helps me structure the list of topics that I'll be covering on the channel. So without further ado, let's get straight into product pricing. Okay guys, so we're going to be covering how to price your products both for low ticket, medium ticket, and high ticket products. Also, make sure to stay tuned because at the end of the video, I'm going to be announcing a store reviews video. Next week, I'm going to be talking about store optimization. So what things do you need to take into account to make sure that your store is going to convert well? And to do this, I want to invite a few of you guys to submit your stores for me to review them. So what I'll be doing is I'll be selecting a few of your stores and I'll be giving my opinion on what I think you should improve and what I think you've done correctly. Stay tuned because that's coming at the end of this video. Now let's get started with product pricing. So first, we're going to talk about pricing low ticket products, okay? Low ticket products, by the way, are products that you can sell at $50 or under. Now, what should you take into consideration when selling low ticket products? First, you need to think about your average order value. And this is very, very important, not only for low ticket products, but especially for low ticket products. Because if you think about it, low ticket products very frequently are products that you buy in more than one unit. This means that your margin can be pretty low on a single unit, but because no one really buys only one, your average margin per sale is actually higher. So this is something that you really need to consider if you want to take full advantage of something like quantity discounts. So I have an example here where your product price is $15, but on average, people order 2 units. This means that your average order value is $30. Now, this is very important. I recommend that you have a minimum margin of at least $15 for low ticket products that you're going to sell in your store. But you don't just think about the 15 margin on a single unit of the product. And this is where average order value and your average order quantity plays a very big and important role. In this case, for example, your product is priced at 15, but you're selling 2 units on average because people rarely buy just one. Right? So your average order value is $30 because people buy 2. This means that your margin per unit is just $10, which would mean your margin would be less than the recommended minimum margin of $15. But because people don't just buy one unit, your average order value is actually $30 and your average margin is actually $20, which is above $15 and is actually a very good margin for a low ticket product. Do bear this in mind, guys. When you're selling low ticket products, a lot of the times these products are products that you want to collect or just buy more than one. And this plays a very, very big role because sometimes I see people looking at stores that sell a very cheap product for like $10 or even under, and they go, how are they profitable with just this price? Shouldn't my margin be a minimum of X, Y, or Z? Yes, your margin should have a minimum threshold because if you're advertising on social media, you need to pay for those costs, and those costs are quite hefty. But if you're advertising a cheap product, chances are people will start buying more than one, especially if you have some offer like quantity discounts. So you really need to take this into consideration. Now let's move on to our medium ticket products. Okay, so as a summary, before we get on to the medium ticket products, here is what you should consider. To price your products, you should have your cost of goods plus your margin. And your margin should be anywhere between $15 to $25 for a low ticket product. This is going to give you your selling price. But remember, if your average order quantity is higher than 1, you need to take that into consideration, because again, we have another example here. Let's say your average order quantity is 3 units, but your cost of goods for each unit is $5. You sell each of these units at 10. So this means that your revenue from your average order quantity is going to be $30. And this is your average order value. So your average order value is $30 because your average order quantity is 3 units. So if you think about it, your actual margin from your average order quantity is $15, which is fine. So don't forget to take this into consideration. I see a lot of people going wrong and failing at low ticket products because they price them too high, because they don't really interpret the minimum threshold in a correct way. And usually with cheap products, bundles and quantity discounts are a very, very big and important factor. So this is definitely something that you should always keep in mind if you're going to test a low ticket product. Now for medium ticket products are products that have a selling price between $50 and $100. Now, we need to consider something which is very important here as we move up the pricing tiers, which is the more expensive the product, the higher your cost per acquisition is going to be, at least in principle, because it's going to be harder for you to acquire a customer to buy a product that is very expensive than it will be for you to buy a product that is very cheap. On this note, by the way, cheap products, low ticket products are usually what we call impulse buys. So that's why they're so good for beginners, because people don't tend to judge too much the store or anything really. If it's a nice, cheap, viral product, oftentimes people will just buy them and they won't even think too much about it. That's why it's very good and very recommendable for beginners to start with these low ticket products, because they really increase the chances of a beginner finding success. Okay, so now another thing that you need to keep into account is that as you move up, for medium priced products, I would recommend that you set at least a $20 minimum margin. So 15 is just not enough anymore. But there's a big new factor that starts to come into play with medium priced products, and especially with higher ticket products, which is the perceived value of your product. So if your product looks like it's very expensive, like it's very high quality, this means that you have a lot more room to play with in terms of your margin. If your product looks like it's very expensive, even if it's actually very cheap to you, you can definitely and should definitely explore the opportunity to have a higher margin. Other than this, pricing a medium ticket product is relatively simple and very similar to pricing a low ticket product. You just use the same formula that we talked about, where you have your cost of goods plus your minimum margin, which is going to be 20, and then this will give you your selling price. Of course, you should also take your average order value into account, but as we move into higher priced products, usually quantity discounts don't have as much of an impact, obviously because we're selling expensive products. This is a general consideration though. There are some medium ticket and high ticket products even that do sell in quantity, so make sure to take your average order value into account. Now, before we get into the high ticket products, there is something that I really want to note here, which is which margin should you begin to test your products with? Because I'm giving you minimum thresholds, right? $15 minimum for low ticket, $20 minimum for medium ticket. But should you start with your minimum or should you explore this to your advantage? Now what I recommend is that if you're just starting to test your product, you start with the minimum margin, because you don't really know how people will respond, and this is going to help streamline your testing strategy. If you think about it, let's say that you start with a high margin and you want to see if it works, but then you put your testing campaign in practice and it just fails. Now you don't know if the product really has no demand or if people just aren't buying because your price is too high. This is why if you really want to have good quality results from your testing, you should start with the minimum price and then work up from there. Now for high ticket products, and these are products that you can sell at $100 or more, what I recommend that you take into consideration is a few more elaborate set of criteria, because when you go into high ticket, there are a few other things that are really important here and that you should definitely consider. So you need to consider the quality of your offer. And by the quality of your offer, what I mean is how good your website is. Is it really on brand? Is it looking like a website that can really sell a high ticket product? If you think about the Apple website, it looks really, really good. It looks very branded. It looks very high quality. So it relays a message of very high perceived value. And this is very important when you're selling high ticket products. If you want to sell high ticket products, your store needs to be able to match the number that you're charging for your product. If you think about it, it's just like expensive brands. If you walk into a store that sells cheap clothes, or if you walk into the Chanel store, they're completely different stores, right? And because the stores have to match the quality of the product and the price of the product that's being sold there. And for an online store, it's the exact same thing. A customer that is willing to pay $100 or more for your product is going to want a different experience. He's going to be more demanding. He's going to be looking at every detail in your store. He's going to probably demand more even from your customer service. So your entire offer needs to match the segment of the market that you're placing yourself in. The next thing, of course, perceived value. In high ticket products, perceived value has a huge role to play. So if your product is very expensive, you have more room to play with your margin in terms of how high you can go. But again, keep in mind what I just recommended earlier. If you're just testing, start with the minimum that you possibly can do. And on that note, for high ticket products, I recommend that you start with a minimum of $40 margin. Again, as a final note to high ticket products, because they're high ticket, they usually have very high perceived value, they're very high quality, so you can go higher with your margin, but do this later. If you can validate your product, then you test your price increases. Don't start with very high prices right off the bat. At least that would be my recommendation. Okay guys, and that's it for the product pricing. Now, what I want to do now is announce the store reviews and what we're going to be doing next week. I don't want to make this channel just me talking and then no interaction from you guys. I really want you guys to interact, not only in the comments but also in the content. I really appreciate all the feedback that you guys have been giving me for each video. I really like to interact with you guys in the comments, and now I want to bring you guys to the videos as well, because I want this to be a two-way street in terms of communicating. I want to communicate with you guys, but I want you guys to communicate with me, because that's the best possible way that I can improve my content to show you guys things that are more relevant to you. So there's a few things that I want to implement to allow you guys to actually participate in the videos, and this is the first one. Next week, I'm going to be doing a video on how to optimize your store, how to make sure that your store is primed for conversion. And in this video, I would like to review some of your stores. So how can you have your store reviewed? Just leave a comment on this video saying store review - your store URL, and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. On the 3rd of November at 2 p.m. UK time, I will go through all the comments. I will have a look at your stores, and I will select 5 of your stores that I will be including in next week's video. I will be going over your stores in detail in the video, and I will be telling you my thoughts on why I think they're very good or on what I think they could improve. And that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was useful to you, and make sure to let me know what you thought in the comments. As always, if you have any suggestions for future videos, also let me know in the comments. So yeah, guys, Q4 is here. I hope you're testing a lot of products. I hope you're finding a lot of success in the products that you're testing. Make sure to implement this pricing strategy for your products that you're testing right now, and I'll see you next week. Bye.